Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is episode 3 for using your Distress Oxide inks on your layouts. And I am showing how you can use Distress Oxide inks on a darker pattern or a darker cardstock. And I decided to use a dark craft for this one. And I'm just using 4 different colors and using my stencil here, and I think this is an old Heidi Swap stencil, and my ink blending tools, and I'm just adding those on generously, using a lot of color and going over it a couple times to apply that color. I love how this turns out, and you can do this on navy blue cardstock or black cardstock. It looks really, really great. I decided to do it the dark craft this time, and I love how it turned out. I will say, the yellow, I think it's fossilized amber that I used, it soaks into the paper, and you in the end don't even you can't even see it once it's dry, and you'll see that in a bit. But I do find a way to fix that and be able to salvage the background. I end up using my stencil again and laying it back over, and then I'm going to use some Vicki Boutin glaze in silver, and I'm going to use a star stencil and apply stars in where those yellow paint strips would have been. I've never seen this before where it just soaks right into the paper. I was really disappointed at first, and I was so disappointed because it does discolor it a little bit, but in the end, once you get all the embellishments on, I don't think it's really even that noticeable. So I'm going to apply all the stars into just the 3 different yellow spaces, and then the other spaces I will just leave the craft color. Once that's done, I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll start focusing on getting my photo and my embellishments. Now, for this one, I had no embellishments. I originally was going to do this as a birthday layout for my son's 21st birthday, but then when the yellow wasn't in there, it looked so patriotic to me, so I decided to switch my thinking here and to do a layout of, it's from Memorial Day, photos of my husband and my son from Memorial Day. And I love, love, love how it turned out. Something that I thought was going to be a disaster, actually I pushed through and ended up liking it in the end. Oftentimes when I'm doing mixed media backgrounds, I will just give up and just set it aside. But to be honest, I was on a time crunch, and I thought I have to make this work. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I pushed through this one, and I certainly have learned a lesson here not to give up. Just like when Missy Whidden says, using the packaging technique, she'll often say, keep adding, keep adding, keep adding. And she's right. Once you get everything on there, it just looks so much better. So I decided I needed something a little bit lighter to back the craft paper, and I used some white cardstock, and then I wanted to ground it with something darker, so I found this navy blue pattern paper in my stash and thought it would be perfect for backing the whole layout. And I really like how that grounds the whole thing. You'll see in the photo there's kind of the navy blue from the flag and then the navy blue from my husband's shirt, and I think that really pulls all of that together, and it really serves as a very nice accent color to the other colors on the page. Now it's trying to find embellishments, because I have nothing that is patriotic or anything to that sort. So I looked through my dies and my punches, and I found I had and stamps. I had this United States stamp, and I thought that would be perfect. I used a pattern paper, but that was mostly white, to stamp that on, because I wanted to add that little bit of texture. I didn't want it to just be white cardstock. So this had like a ledger paper that had blue lines and aqua lines in it, so it worked out perfectly. And I actually had a die to go along with that, so it made it really easy to cut out. And you'll see I'll pull out my punches later to work on the other cluster. Now in my stash, I did pull out a light blue frame, navy blue oval shaped sticker that I know is from Maggie Holmes, very old collection, and then an ampersand that I found in my stash from a soup. I bet that ampersand must be 7 years old, I'm guessing. I think it was from an old Simple Stories collection. So I'm just playing around with trying to figure out how to make that bottom cluster work. And I realized I needed to have something underneath the frame, and that's when I found the Maggie Holmes sticker and decided to layer that under, bringing navy blue into that little cluster. And I like how that turns out. At this point, I'm not gluing anything down. So this is typically my process, is I lay it all out, and then once I like it, then I'll pick it all up and glue it down again. Although that blue was a sticker, so once it was down, it was down. So I kind of made sure I knew exactly where I wanted that. The only thing I wanted to make sure of in that cluster is when I was laying over all the pieces onto that frame, I wanted to make sure I didn't have any trapped white space. That would have kind of looked awkward, and so that was my main concern there. I did put the United States up on some foam tape, and on this one I did keep the photo flat on the paper because I knew I wanted to layer some of the embellishments over the photo, and so that's what I did there. And in a minute here, I'm going to be working on my cluster that will go up in the left-hand corner. And there I've got my punch. It's a heart, and it's got the word love in it that's punched out. And I end up backing the heart in white. Originally I was thinking navy blue, but then I decided to do white because I wanted to bring that same white that was down with the cut file or the die that I used for the United States. I wanted to make sure I had some white up in that left-hand corner. Then I'm also going to have white as part of my title. So I'm kind of creating that triangle to let your eye move around the page. Then I'm getting my star punch out, and I'm just going to punch a couple different stars out of some scrap paper that I had in my scrap bin. And had I been thinking and maybe had more time, I would have used some glossy accents on those stars. It would have just kind of elevated those as embellishments, and it would have added a different texture other than paper. But unfortunately, I was doing this in somewhat of a time crunch, and glossy accents does take a little time to dry, so I ended up leaving it just as paper. And I like it all the same, but I really like to have different types of textures on my paper, on my pages, and glossy accents is a really fun way to do that, to change the texture of just plain paper and make it something different. So that's a good tip to use if you are wanting to make your own embellishments. Okay, so I think I've got everything down on the bottom cluster, and then I'm going to work on the top again. And my final touches are going to be, I'm going to pull out some sequins. I've got some Spiegel Mom scrap sequins, and then I have some star sequins that were from a boys collection. I believe it was a crepe paper collection, but I can't remember the name of it, that I do scatter around the layout. Originally, I was only going to put my sequins in around those two clusters. But when I did that and I looked at the page, it didn't make sense to me because my background has kind of a round design, and I was forming a diagonal with my embellishment clusters, and it was throwing my brain off. So I thought, no, I need to scatter the sequins around the entire perimeter of that sunburst. And that's what I did. I didn't overdo it with the sequins, but I love how it just adds just another level, and again, more texture, a little bit of bling. it makes me feel like, although this isn't 4th of July, it's, I don't know, it just feels patriotic to me. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down on that navy blue paper, get everything glued down, and I'll work on my title here in a minute. My title is going to be Proud Americans, and I'm just going to be using some foam thickers. The white thickers, unfortunately, I am not sure where they're from, but I love them. I take everything out of their package, so I'm terrible at knowing. Once I remove it from a collection, then I take stuff out of the package. Oh, yes, I forgot. Before I add the sequins, I wanted some white splatters, so I'm using a paint pen here. Now you could just water down some acrylic paint, but I just didn't want to take the time and I didn't want to make the extra mess. So I just primed my pen really good, I used an old baby wipe, and then I just shake the pen over the page. You don't really get to control where the splatters go very well, but I didn't want it to look very controlled, so I was okay with that. And then you noticed I kind of was just adding my own little dots throughout because I wanted a little bit more than what it was giving me there. So I still think it looks pretty natural and not like I just went in there and put dots everywhere. So let's see what I'm doing here. Okay, here's where I am scattering some of those sequins. But I hope you're all enjoying the channel or this series. I have been having so much fun with the Distress Oxide inks, and I hope you have too. I hope you have been inspired by my videos, and don't forget to check my description box below. That's where you're going to find all the links to the other ladies who are joining me on this mini series. We have all had a blast just coming up with ideas, and I hope that you guys will try this on your own. And if you do, tag us in your layouts. On Instagram, I'm scrappin3boys. And of course, you can find me here on YouTube as well. So if you haven't subscribed to the other ladies, please do. They've got some great layouts. They have been doing process videos a bit longer than I, so they do have quite a library of videos. And I hope you will subscribe to my channel as well. And I hope you'll come back to see more. I'm finishing up the title, and then I'm going to have still photos at the end, and that'll be it. Like I said, in the end, I love how this turned out. I feel like I turned what would have been a failure for a birthday layout and managed to find a way to make it work, and I think it turned out to be a really cute, patriotic themed layout. So let's see. There we go. Oh, it's funny. I ended up adding an S onto the end. At first I just put Proud American, but then I'm like, oh wait, I have two people in this photo. I need an S, but I did that after the still shots. So the title is actually Proud Americans, but in the still shots you're just going to see Proud American. But you get the point. So I often have to go back and fix things once I finish a layout and step back and take a closer look. So I hope you like this process. If you have any questions, leave them in the links below, or in the links. Goodness, it is getting way past my bedtime and I just can't think or talk anymore. But leave any questions that you have for me in the comments below. I hope you all have a great night. Thanks for coming by. Bye.